guys, this is Heather. My mom forwarded me an article a couple weeks ago. It was in the Globe and Mail, which is a newspaper in Canada, and it was written by Leslie Beck, who's a registered dietitian in Canada. She's one of the top registered dietitians in the country. And it was a really interesting article about the smoke point of oils. Now, smoke point is not something that I talk about very often in reference with oils because I usually think first about how they're processed. So whether they're refined or unrefined. Smoke point is a totally different topic. It's what happens to the oil when you cook it. And different oils will have different smoke points. The smoke point is basically when the oil is going to start to burn. And what happens at the smoke point is it makes a bad flavor because it tastes kind of burnt. It creates free radicals because the oil is going to become unstable and turn into rancid free radical type compounds. And the oil is also going to lose some of its phytonutrients that it might have left in it. So those are three things that aren't very good. So you want to make sure that you aren't heating your oils above the smoke point. And like I said, I usually think about the refinement because what happens when an oil is refined is that it's put through a process usually involving heat, occasionally involving chemicals, and often involving some time spent processing the food. And so what all of that does when it's created into an oil is destroys nutrients, changes the flavor of the oil, and creates free radicals and rancidity in the oil because it's being heated and it will become unstable. So that does the same kinds of things as smoke point. So both of these are important to look at, and it's important to know the difference because refinement is what you're looking at when you buy the oil. Smoke point is what you're looking at when you're cooking with the oil. And the trouble is, a lot of refined oils will say that they have a high smoke point. But if they've already gone through the process of having been created with free radicals and lost nutrients, then they're not really going to be that great. So the best thing to do is look for oils that are unrefined and that have a high smoke point. So the oils that I tend to use, if I use any oil at all, are unrefined and they have a fairly high smoke point for the cooking that I'm doing. So those are things like olive oil, coconut oil, and toasted sesame oil. So Leslie gave a great breakdown of all of the temperatures, the smoke points of these oils. So extra virgin olive smoke point is 410 degrees Fahrenheit. And for reference, most of you probably know that when you're baking, you're going to be somewhere in the range of 300 to 350 or maybe 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you are sauteing, you might get up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. But you generally aren't going to get above 400, so extra virgin olive oil is still fine in terms of smoke point, and you can often find it unrefined. Now, coconut oil has a smoke point of 350 degrees Fahrenheit, so you don't want to be heating that too much above what you would be baking. So if I'm making a curry that I'm using coconut oil in, I'm going to saute vegetables at a fairly low setting, so maybe medium heat instead of full high heat when I'm using coconut oil. And then flaxseed oil is one that you definitely don't want to cook with because it's an unstable oil. It's going to create free radicals very easily, and Leslie wrote down that the smoke point of flaxseed oil is 225 degrees Fahrenheit, so that makes a lot of sense there as well. Grapeseed oil is one that a lot of people use for cooking because it's a very mild flavor. So it doesn't have the same flavor as an olive oil. It'll be more neutral. And its smoke point is 400 degrees Fahrenheit. The only thing I would say on grapeseed oil is make sure that if you're buying that, you look for it as unrefined because grapeseed oil is mostly polyunsaturated fats, which are fairly unstable when they're exposed to heat. So it will create free radicals fairly easily. And then some other oils that I really love, but they tend to be fairly expensive, so I don't often use them, but they're unrefined and they have a fairly high smoke point, one being avocado oil, which has a smoke point of 520 degrees Fahrenheit, so way up there. Almond oil is 430 degrees Fahrenheit, so just a little bit more than olive or grapeseed oil. And then walnut is another fantastic oil, but its smoke point is 320 degrees Fahrenheit, so you don't want to do much more with that than baking with it or something like that. Flax and walnut usually are best if you're using them in salad dressings, if you're using them in bean dips or some kind of raw appetizer, something like that. And then some of the refined oils that have higher smoke points, canola is 400 degrees Fahrenheit smoke point, but canola is a very highly processed and refined, so it's going to have some free radicals in it before you even start cooking. Safflower, 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and sunflower, 440 degrees Fahrenheit. And those smoke points are for the refined version of the oil. A refined oil is generally going to have a higher smoke point because some of the things that might turn rancid have already been processed in the oil. Okay, the only other thing I wanted to say is that what I usually think about in terms of oils is first choosing an unrefined oil that's going to have minimal processing, and then if I do use oil, I try to minimize my use of oil wherever possible. So I saute with things like vegetable broth or water, or sometimes I'll use tomato juice or tomato sauce to saute with, or I'll do a water saute and then glaze it with balsamic vinegar. So there's some ideas to not use oil. But if you are going to use oil, and when I do occasionally use it, what I think about is that oil is made unstable when it's exposed to heat, light, and air. And so if I can minimize how much it's being exposed, then I'm going to be better off. And so what I usually think about in terms of cooking with oil is I try to reduce the amount of oil that I'm using, because the less oil that I use, the less potential there is for free radicals to be formed. I try to think about reducing the time that I'm cooking. So if I cook something for 10 minutes instead of 15 minutes, there's a lot less time for those compounds to become unstable and become rancid. And I think about reducing the temperature that I'm cooking at. So if I'm baking vegetables, I might bake them at 325 instead of 375. Or if I'm sauteing, I might use medium high instead of full high. So those are some thoughts that sprung up when I was reading this article. I'm going to post a link to this article below so you can read Leslie's thoughts as well as hear mine. And I would love to know your thoughts on smoke point and refinement of oils and what you use and how you reduce your use of oil in cooking. All right, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Be healthy, and I'll talk soon.